Welcome back to Real Life Reviews, and in this video we're going to take a look at the latest iteration of Hoka Owner's Speedgoat, the Speedgoat 4. The shoe that in name as well as ability harks back to the original Speedgoat himself, Karl Meltzer. So in this video we're going to look at the changes between the 3 and the 4, but for those of you who aren't in the knowledge about the 3, we'll look at all the key features as well. So where does a company go when it's got such a good shoe anyway? It can really only make small differences, and between the 2 and the 3 we highlighted those differences, and to be perfectly honest, yes, the 3 was a better shoe, but did the differences make it worth, at the time it came out, buying a 3 over a 2? And the bottom line was, no, it didn't really, unless the very slight change in toe box and sizing was for you. In this case, do the changes, subtle as they are, make the difference that I would suggest you went out and bought a 4 rather than looking for a cheap 3? Yeah, they do. The small differences in the 4 make a big difference, I think, for my feet. So I'm going to start with the one thing that for me makes this shoe so much better, and that's the increase in toe box accommodation. There was a slight increase between the 2 and the 3, and it's still a slight increase between the 3 and the 4, and it might be it's just enough that it's absolutely perfect for my feet. But when I put the 4s on, straight away there was no pinch, there was no tightness, no over snugness. It was an absolute perfect fit, and there was no need for stretching. By that I don't mean physically stretching it, I mean seating itself into your feet over a number of miles. It was just an even more comfortable shoe. The 3 was great, but the change in the toe box and the fit of this shoe is the biggest difference for me that makes this much better than the 3. Simple as. Okay, it's a trail shoe. Let's move straight on to the sole. And those of you that know the Speedgoat will recognise the patterning that we've got on here. It's still the Vibram Mega Grip, fantastic, and the best all-round grip I think now that I've come across, be it for wet rock, dry ground, stones, mud, you name it, it's my favourite grip. So absolutely no complaints there, and very little changes. It's still got that little claw feature that you get the feeling that when it's needed and it grips in, it will just turn around and give you that extra grip. They're still arranged so that in the right areas they're pulling into or giving you resistance against, with a couple of little alterations to it, although that's the same as on the previous shoes. Those of you that are really into your soles will notice that we have a subtle, and let me just get nearer to the camera here, we have a subtle flexing point here. It's not all the way across. The central hard sole in the middle in dark blue cuts across it, but we have the concept of a little flex point there. The heel flex point still exists all the way across. Now, to demonstrate that, let me just grab a 3 and show you the 3. And the 3 had almost an angled flex point. So it started here, came across, came down and across. So you got a flex point nearer the middle of the foot, but it angled. And the 2 was very similar to that. It's not uncommon for shoes to have these flex points, and they do give you help in getting the foot in the right position and allowing you to push off. Here's another mate. This is an Innovate, and you can clearly see the front flex point going there on the forefoot, and the shoe has a flexing. Here's an Asics, it's a tri shoe. Again, we have flex points, and although this isn't designed as a trail shoe, the last one was, it's the same sort of thing. So we have an element of a flex point that's changed its direction, but doesn't really go all the way across. So Hoka have reduced the flexing there. And finally, before we move on to the midsole, the lugs are still 5mm, and yeah, as I've just said, they work fantastically. So moving to the midsole, Hoka's always look like they're a high shoe, but you actually sit in them. And they still use an EVA foam for their cushioning, but Hoka say that this foam is lighter and more responsive. Interestingly, there are a couple of features, 3 features, really on this shoe that in essence make the shoe lighter. However, they are slightly heavier. This is a size 8, my 3s are a size 8. When I weigh them, the 3s are 289 grams, these are 297 grams. So there's an 8 gram weight penalty, if you can call it a penalty, going from the 3 to the 4. Yet there are some features that should make this lighter, and the foam is meant to be lighter than the foam in the 3 and more responsive. The heel to toe drop is 4mm, so that's pretty standard for a lot of trail shoes now, and a lot of shoes are aiming towards the flat. Obviously companies like Ultra are flat, 0 drop, but this is a 4mm drop. The cushioning in these shoes is quite simply, I think, the plushest that I've come across. And one of the things about the Speedgoat is you are not going to run PBs, personal bests, in a 5k trail, or for that matter even a 10k trail. What are these shoes for? Well, personally, these shoes are for training in and looking after your knees and your joints, and they're for longer distance runs. So I would suggest half marathon onwards in terms of distance, marathon distance trails, ultra trails, and even stage races. So it is a really, really plush cushioning, but it's not going to give you your PBs. You'll want something lighter and something a bit more responsive and dynamic if you want a PB on a 5k trail race or run. So I mentioned there were a couple of other points that would suggest slightly weight saving. One is the heel cup in here, and the heel cup is less plush than the 3. It is definitely thinner, and it's probably very difficult to see on camera, but if I try and show you a 3 and a 2, sorry, a 3 and a 4, the 4 is this one, obviously the orange one, you get a bit of a sense that the 3 is a bit thicker and plusher. Do you notice it when you put it on? No, you don't. So well done, Hoka, because in that respect, yes, it saves something, and you don't notice it. The other feature is the tongue, and the tongue has flattened. I don't know if you're aware of something like the Scott Super Track. It works with in a similar way, has a much thinner tongue, and the fear is that you can feel the laces on the top of your foot and it interferes, but actually I've not noticed it at all. It's fantastic. And again, if we do a comparison and I try to pull the tongue up on the 3, then again you can see we've got, and let's just look at each one individually, that's how thick it is, and there it is. Whereas if I get the 3 individually now and use both hands, it's much more of a traditional cushioned tongue, but as I say, you don't notice anything wearing the shoe. So 3 little features with the foam, the tongue and the heel that suggest this should be a lighter shoe, but it's actually slightly heavier. Another subtle change between the 3 and the 4 is its little lockdown point that was introduced in the 3. Now, if I can get the 3 and just remind you, for those that have seen it before, let you know if you haven't, that there it is, it's in red there. It's more plasticky, it's a lockdown point, and what happens when you tie the shoe off, or you pull the laces tight, it holds them there. So in effect, it's a bit like having a quality mountain walking boot that will lock you down at one point so that you don't get forward push so your toes hit the toe box, but you can still have a bit of flexibility above it, and it works really well. It means that you can tie the shoe perfectly around the middle part of the foot and slightly above the middle. All that's changed in the 4, it's still there. Again, let me try and get it closer to you, It's less obvious now though. It's in blue on this one and just here, and it sits in line with everything else, and it's just a little bit aesthetically more pleasing. Moving on then, we've still got a really good heel loop. If that's the sort of thing you like to pull on, it's very strong. I've had a number of Speedgoats. I've never had a problem with them tearing or pulling off. Absolutely fantastic. And the other thing to mention, as we've just come up from the midsole and the EVA foam, is I said about sitting in the shoe. This is a really stable shoe. It's not the most stable. There are some absolute platforms out there, but it's a lot more stable than many, and it's certainly a lot more stable than you might imagine when you look at it. You are not standing on stilts wearing these shoes. So lovely and stable. The toe bumper is still well protected. You will notice it's a clearer protection around the side, which gives you your colour of the shoe coming through. What's nearest to hand, I've got a 2 here. It tended to be a bit more of a contrast colour in the older ones. On the 4, it fits in a lot more. But we've got really good toe bumper and side protection. Relative, obviously, to, it's not a work shoe, but relative to trail shoes. So what more? Well, the rock plate in here is fantastic. I run across some very sharp stones and rocks on my local trails, and I don't have a problem with it at all. Again, the combination of that and the foam makes this the most comfortable trail shoe that I have and that I wear. So that is great. Water resistance, it hasn't really ever bothered me because I get quite hot feet, and I've always been a fan of, personally, if my feet get wet, I don't really mind. I keep running and it kind of expels out. I've never bought a shoe, 2 shoes, one Gore-Tex of the same model, one £20 cheaper and not. I would always go for the cheaper one. Perhaps I'm too tight. This now though, there's a little change. Hoka used to have its sort of sky shell booty inside to assist with water resistance. They've now gone to a Gore-Tex liner. Do I notice any difference? No, I don't. And I guess part of that is because of the wider toe box fit. My feet just feel so comfortable. Being hot in there, they're no different. It's no different in feel to the 3. That leads me a little bit onto durability. Obviously this has been worn a bit. You can see it's quite dusty. It's actually only done about 80 miles. But having said that, I look at the sole, I look at the toe box where I might have scuffed and hit, I look at where I've tied it a number of times on top, I look at the heel where I've come in and out. I don't notice it. I could get a damp cloth, I could clean this up, and I could probably tell somebody I've done one run and done about 10 miles, and they would believe me. It is on a par with every other Speedgoat. It is I can see it being a very, very durable shoe. So where are we on sizing with these shoes? Well, my personal standard size for running is UK 8. I will often go to 8.5 to give myself more room, particularly for longer runs when your feet swell and you want some expansion. This is an 8. I've always worn 8s in Hoka, and from people I talk to, people I run with, and people I compete in triathlon with and train with, it's a shoe that's true to size. So if you want an 8, if an 8 is your running size, get an 8. The time to change is if you want to buy this shoe for your longer distance, and you might want a bit more width and comfort in the toe box for when your feet swell. Now the great thing about the Speedgoat 4 is that you've actually got 2 common choices now. If you were an 8, for example, you could go up to an 8.5, or right out there now, Hoka do a wide fit. So you could consider, depending where your feet swell and how close your toes are to the end, whether you've got that sort of 1 centimetre gap that people recommend. Depending on your feet, you might go for, if I was an 8 for example, and I did want more room, then I've got a choice of going for an 8.5 and getting it all round, or I've got a wider fit 8, for example. So size-wise though, stick to what is true to you. You don't go up unless you have a real foot swell problem and you're planning on some 50 to 100k ultras or some stage races. In conclusion then, the Hoka One Speedgoat 4. Some subtle changes from the 3 that have actually made the 4, in my opinion, a much, much better shoe, even though it was fantastic before. Its fit and comfort is right up there. It's on the top of the pile, and its cushioning still remains, even with what it seems to be an improved EVA, the cushioning is still the best out there. This is a shoe for training in, and it looks after your joints, and for running longer distances. It's not a shoe for hitting a PB on a 5k trail or a 10k trail for that matter. Okay, so if you buy it for the right reasons, it's an absolutely fantastic shoe. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do please give it a thumbs up. If you are looking to buy this shoe, well, there's a link to Wiggle in the description down below, and for every purchase that you make from Wiggle, the channel gets just a tiny little bit. You pay no more, and it helps keep the channel going. There will also be a link down there to our website, which has got further links to affiliates, and also a link down there. If you haven't subscribed, just click on that circle. If you want to see the video on the Speedgoat 3, well, that's just up there. And if you want to see the video on Hoka's recovery slide, well, that's just up there. Thanks again for watching, and enjoy your running.